Logan Webb tossed a complete game shutout, the first of his career, and man, did the Giants need it because they only got one run. So this series win, gives the Giants all kinds of momentum going into the 4-day break. And oh, by the way, the MLB Draft is underway, and the Giants have made several picks, and they went big with upside with their first three, and we'll break it down next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants now since 2015, and I'm a lifelong fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube, of course, so check us out there if you have not already. Hit that subscribe button if you are watching on YouTube. Swing for the fences, like the Giants, on Sleeper Picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. And coming up on today's show, yes, this was talk about like momentum going into the break. Sure, it would have been great to score 10 runs in addition, but something about a 1-0 shutout maybe is even better. But the Giants offense certainly scuffling going into the break, but they don't have to worry about that. If you lose the game and you get shut out, or allow one run, then yeah, you're probably going to feel bad about yourself. But winning a 1-0 game with Logan Webb taking center stage and getting not only his first shutout, but also like Gabe Kapler making the decision to let him have the opportunity to finish that game. I think if it had been like 2-0 even, or 3 or 4 or more, it would have been an easy call. Maybe if it's like 10, maybe you don't let him do it. I think he would have let him do it if it would have been an easier decision with 2 or more runs. But 1-0, Andy Baggerly wrote about this and I had forgotten, but Baggerly went through all the times Webb has been in a similar situation, including one time where I don't know if it was 1-0 or not, but Webb went out to the 9th inning and immediately allowed a tying home run to Kyle Schwarber. So I do remember that. I think that must have been last year or the year before. But yeah, so he finally gets it. I mean, he's established himself as one of the better starting pitchers in baseball, and this is something he hadn't done. I believe he hadn't had a shutout period, but to get it, a complete game period, but to get a shutout in addition, he was just fantastic. And I mean, he definitely is deserving of being an all-star. I was kind of reminded yesterday of how my take on the fact that there's always all-star snubs, like major ones. Webb is a significant snub, but there's tons of others. It's not like it's just Logan Webb. The all-star rosters are too small because you end up with really, really good players, like very much deserving of not going. And so, I mean, they should just expand the rosters a little bit to kind of limit the number of snubs. At some point last year, I think I calculated what percentage of players make the all-star team, and it's too small. Anyway, so Logan Webb, he ends the first half with a 3.14 earned run average, 3.23 fielding independent pitching, and very importantly, he leads the majors in innings pitched with 126. The next closest player has 119. So by 7 innings, he leads the majors. That's like a whole start, basically. But all these other guys who are near him have also made 19 starts. A few have 18 starts, but he's made every start, right? They've maybe bumped him back once, like by a day or two, but he's made all those starts. And so when you log not only the excellent ERA, but also the innings, then, I mean, I'm not trying to make this like all about the all-star team, but it was just a great first half for Logan Webb. Also a great first half for Alex Cobb. And a little teaser, somebody else on the Giants besides Camilo Doval did make the All-Star team as a replacement, and we will get into that later on. If you're watching on YouTube, you can already see the little teaser there in the bottom. But I don't know. The Giants, they end. So 1-0. J.D. Davis hit a homer, and that was the only run for either team in the game. And the Giants end the first half 49-41, a 544 winning percentage, which is a pace of 88 wins. And they're only 2.5 games out of the division. And if you heard me say, like, I was asked in a crossover episode with, I forget actually who I was talking with. I think Paul Holden from Locked On Rockies, about do I care about winning the division? And I said, no, not at all. But I walked that back completely, because if you are able to be one of the top 2 division winners, then it absolutely makes a world of difference to win the division, because you get to skip the first round of the postseason. So it's kind of a dogfight right now in the NL West, with the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Giants all within 2.5 games of each other. The Giants are 2.5 back. Dodgers and D-backs end the first half technically tied, but actually the Dodgers are percentage points better. They've played 2 fewer games, and the D-backs in those 2 extra games are 1-1, but that makes the Dodgers winning percentage a little bit better. So D-backs held on to first place pretty much all first half, but they kind of lost it there right at the end. They haven't been playing great. Their run differential is worse than the Giants' run differential. So we'll see how it goes in the second half. And then the Padres, of course, are lurking there, 8.5 back in the division, but only 6 back in the wild card race, and playing better right now. And they have a better run differential than the Giants. But the Giants are also, it's worth pointing out, in a wild card spot. The Phillies are half a game back of the Giants, as are the Milwaukee Brewers. The Phillies have played 1 fewer game than the Giants, and the Giants won that extra game. The Brewers have played 1 more game than the Giants, and they lost that extra game. And so if the season ended right now, the Giants would be that 3rd wild card team, which would mean they would play the last, or the quote-unquote weakest division winner, which would be the Cincinnati Reds. So the Giants would play in Cincinnati. And I know the Reds are really, really playing well, but I don't want to spend too much time matching up the Giants and the Reds, because these won't be the final standings. But it's nice to go into the first half in a playoff spot, coming off a series win that I said was really important after they lost that first game against the Rockies. And according to Fangraphs, Giants playoff odds right now, 58.4%, projecting them to finish with 86.7 wins. That's the median projection, meaning 50-50 chance they end up above it, and 50% chance they end up above it, 50% chance they end up below it, according to Fangraphs model. But it also doesn't factor in trade deadline acquisitions and all that. So you can help yourself by making some moves. And I think the Giants will go out there and make some moves. So anyway, coming up in just a minute, we're going to turn our attention from this great finale. Giants can rest easy and, see you in Pittsburgh on Friday. But the MLB Draft kicked off last night, and the Giants, according to many experts, had one of the best day ones of the MLB Draft around. They swung for the fences. They nabbed another 2-way player, meaning a player who pitches and hits, with their first overall selection. So we will get into it in just a minute. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes in life, we're faced with tough choices, and the path forward isn't always clear. And for me personally, I've been through that many times. And also for me personally, at various times through difficult patches, I have been hesitant to seek out help. But when I have made the decision to allow myself to go there, it has been definitely a decision that was worthwhile. And there have been trials and tribulations, and I just can't say enough that if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And you just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. All right, here we go. The MLB draft kicked off and the Giants swung for the fences. They made some aggressive kind of moves. They went for some upside plays. They ended up nabbing several players, according to many kind of pre-draft rankings, who were in like the top, I don't know, like they ended up picking 16th, 52nd, and 69th, and yet they got guys who were ranked by a lot of people like all within their top 40 ranks. And these players were Bryce Eldridge, a two-way player. I need Walker Martin, a high school shortstop, and Joe Whitman, a college left-handed pitcher. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow on the show, we're going to be getting back into some mailbag questions. I have a ton of great questions left over from the end of last week, and so we're going to get into some more. And then as the week goes on, we're also going to be recapping the first half, kind of analyzing the Giants' strengths and weaknesses, looking into the numbers, all of that as the week goes on. But anyway, about the MLB draft, yeah, the Giants had the 16th overall pick, and their first selection was Bryce Eldridge. He's also a high school player, but man, is he a freakish athlete. He's 6'7", and he is a pitcher, and he is a hitter. And he's one of these guys who legitimately scouts were listen, I don't scout these players. I'm more of like Major League Baseball as opposed to amateur baseball. Even like the minor leagues are not necessarily my area of expertise. And so when we're talking about guys who are amateurs, not yet in professional baseball, there are other people out there who can give you like if they've actually scouted these guys. But I'm just going based on what other people say. And you know, and also watching some videos. And importantly to me, watching like Bryce Eldridge, there was a camera in his house when he got selected by the Giants, and the happiness on his face and his family's face is important to me, because you want a guy who's happy to be taken by your team. Like, there are certainly players out there who might genuinely not be happy to be taken by the Giants. Maybe they wanted to be on a certain coast or whatever, but he was, you know, brought to tears by this selection. And you can just tell there's something to the mental makeup of players, I think, that is really considered nowadays, and not just something kind of mystical, but really they try to figure out who has the mental makeup to make it in this game and be a good teammate, that they think, you know, it helps teams, I think. And so this guy has all those intangibles, I would say. And yeah, according to Fangraphs, I'm looking up Bryce Eldridge. He was the 35th ranked player according to Fangraphs, but according to MLB.com, he was the 23rd ranked player. And according to Keith Law of The Athletic, he was the 16th ranked player. And so opinions kind of varied, but according to Law, let's just kind of run through the pre-draft write-up. Law says there was some buzz coming into the year that Eldridge would be a legitimate two-way prospect, but this spring created some separation that he's much more likely to go out as a hitter than as a pitcher. Eldridge is 6'7", 220 pounds, very tall for a hitter by historical standards, with no hitter that height staying a regular past his early 30s. Well, except Aaron Judge, or is he still in his early 30s? But he will go past. Anyway, but he does offer a short swing given the length of his arms and excellent bat speed with the strong exit velocities you'd expect from a hitter his size. On the mound, he's 91 to 93 miles an hour, can bump 95 with a repeatable delivery, but doesn't have great feel to spin the ball, and would likely require far more development as a pitcher than he will as a hitter. He played first base for his high school, ostensibly to protect his arm, but seems more than athletic enough to play a corner outfield spot. The Alabama recruit did miss some time in April with an ankle injury that kept coming back. I don't think he's the next two-way prospect, but he does offer a ton of upside as a power-hitting right fielder, even with the risk associated with players his height. So there you have it. Others say that they're less convinced that he won't be a pitcher. Keith Law seems to be convinced that he won't be a pitcher. And keep in mind, with the Giants' first-round pick last year, Reggie Crawford, he was also a two-way player. So this is 2 straight drafts in which the Giants took a two-way player with their first-round pick. And they did announce Eldridge as a two-way player. There was some confusion. Locked On did a live draft kind of show, and on the Giants Locked On YouTube page, you may have watched the video where they were discussing the pick for the Giants, and there was a little bit of confusion. They thought that he was announced only as a pitcher, but no, they announced him as a two-way player. But I want to point out with Reggie Crawford last year, it was kind of the opposite, where people thought, okay, he's mostly a pitcher and the bat is like a maybe. So with Eldridge, it's more split. Like, some people really do believe he can genuinely do both, and the Giants are going to let him try. But the majority think like he's best as a hitter. And so that's worth pointing out. And then, like I said, he plays first, but many scouts believe he could play the corner outfield, even with that crazy size. 6'7", but a freakish athlete. And so there you have it. There's the Giants' first overall selection, 16th overall in the draft. And Walker Martin, a high school shortstop, was their next selection. And according to Fangraphs, he was the 40th ranked prospect. According to MLB Pipeline, he was the 30th ranked. What did I say for Fangraphs? 40th. So we've got 30th by MLB, 40th by Fangraphs, and Keith Law of The Athletic had him 77th. So let's read Fangraphs this time around. And what they say is Martin had a breakout at the 2022 area codes, where he showed a sweet lefty stroke, a projectable frame, and the arm and actions to stay at short. His feel to hit is hard to evaluate due to a smaller showcase sample than is typical for a high-end infield prospect, but in short looks, he has been quite underlooked. Scouts were out in droves to watch Martin play travel ball in Arizona in January to try to drill down on the hit tool, which was going to be tough to evaluate against varsity arms in Colorado during the spring. He destroyed opposing Colorado high schoolers, but that's not really telling. He's a very risky, older infield prospect with a gorgeous swing. So that seems a little bit like an old scouting report from 2022. MLB, writes these longer write-ups. I'll just kind of give you the Keith Law brief summary. Martin has plus raw power already from a athletic frame and a big swing coupled with plus bat speed, but teams have dinged him already for his age. He's 19 already, and questionable pitch recognition. He's very strong, so the contact he makes tends to be very hard, but he showed a lot of swing and miss last summer, highlighting concerns scouts typically have about high school hitters from Colorado, given how hard it is to pitch there. He's a shortstop now, but lacks the footwork or agility for it, and he'll need some work on his movements to manage third base. There's a lot of talk about him going in the first round because of the power and potential size, but there's a lot of risk between the age, the hit tool, and the position question. Okay, so a less rosy picture. Like I said, Law has him ranked 77th. MLB says 30th. Fangraphs says 40th. And we didn't read the MLB one. Yeah, that would be wise of me to read like the middle analysis on each of these picks. But we'll go on to their third round pick, Joe Whitman. And I think a lot of people believe this was kind of the steal of the first night for the Giants. Fangraphs ranked Joe Whitman 21st, and MLB ranked Whitman 37th, and Keith Law ranked Whitman 42nd. And so, yeah, and the Giants got him 69th. So 42nd by Law, 37th by MLB, and what did I say? 21st by Fangraphs. Let's read the Fangraphs one because I have it pulled up here. Whitman is a super smooth lefty with fastball and slider command who has a chance to blow up on a pro strength and conditioning program. After 2 years with just 5 2/3 total innings pitched at Purdue. Whitman transferred to Kent State for his junior year and posted a 2.60 ERA with 100 strikeouts and 29 walks in 81 innings. He throws quality fastball strikes despite a long arm swing, and his mechanical grace, especially at his size, and his command make him one of the better starting pitching prospects in the draft. Hitters can pick up Whitman's grip as his arm circles behind him, but then they don't know, or they don't see the ball again until it's right on top of them. The pacing of his delivery also catches hitters off guard as Whitman accelerates his whole operation late in the process. His super quick arm stroke and ride/run life helps 92 play up. He could still stand to get stronger and might throw harder. The movement of his low 80s slider is tight and late, and he can land it for a strike or get a chase. His changeup isn't good or consistent, but we're talking about a guy who barely pitched in a competitive setting until 2023. If he had a good changeup too, he'd be a top 20 pick. This is a great tip of the iceberg prospect who should be in the late first round mix. And again, the Giants got him with their comp pick for losing Carlos Rodon at 69th overall. So anyway, those are the Giants' top 3 picks. There are 20 rounds to this draft. The draft is well underway on Monday for the Giants continuing to make their selections. And just a reminder, we don't know anything. We just don't know until they get into pro ball and start playing. And then even then, we don't know until they're in the majors for a long time. So those are the best guesses. And coming up in just a minute, some injury updates, but also a Giant, not just Camilo Doval, made the All-Star team. And it's a really feel-good story. So we'll get into that in just a minute. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Sleeper is a really, really cool app where you can win more money with less picks. Head to Sleeper where you can win up to 100 times your money on just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. You can figure out who's crushing left-handed pitching, even on the Giants. I mean, talk about sleeper picks. Austin Slater, for example, kind of under the radar, very much so nationally, but crushing left-handed pitching as always this season, like he always does. And you can make a pick for him to hit a homer, and Sleeper is going to give you odds on over or under like half a home run. And you're able to make that pick and win up to 100 times your money on daily fantasy baseball. Sleeper's now offering up to a 100 times payout on up to 8 pick contests. Choose as many as 8 players that you like and pick more or less on your favorite baseball stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right and you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, as promised, the Giant made the All-Star team, and it wasn't just Camilo Doval. And this is where the politics kind of get into MLB, because Logan Webb certainly has a case for being at the All-Star team, but the fact that he pitched on Sunday, he was never going to be named a replacement, and so somebody else on the Giants got named a replacement. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers tomorrow on the show, like I said, a mailbag episode. We've got a ton of great questions left over from last week, and then throughout the week we'll be analyzing the Giants' first half performance and getting you set for second half baseball with the Giants starting out on a long road trip in Pittsburgh. So Alex Cobb, he made the All-Star team, and it's just such a feel-good story because Cobb is pitching in his 12th or 13th season. He's been around since 2011 is when he made his major league debut with the Tampa Bay Rays, and he has never made an All-Star team. And last year, kind of a breakout under the radar because the ERA was the only thing that wasn't in line with all these excellent peripheral numbers for Cobb, like a 3.15 expected ERA last year, a 2.80 fielding independent pitching, which is one of the best in the league. And 149 2/3 innings. So not a ton of innings, but still a really solid season from an innings and just performance perspective. And this year, it's kind of been not the opposite, but the ERA showed up and kind of he's even outperforming those peripheral numbers a little bit. And he has a 2.91 ERA, a 3.04 fielding independent pitching. Kind of ironically, the expected ERA is actually 3.98. So much higher than the actual ERA. So that's interesting. I don't know if I would call it concerning, but he's been great and reliable. And I mean, when I say great, I don't mean like a superstar, but certainly deserving of this all-star honor. And yeah, so he makes that all-star team. And like I said, I'm trying to see where he ranks in like ERA. I'm not sure he qualifies. That could be why I'm not seeing him. He must not qualify, because if he did qualify, he would be in the top 10 or so in earned run average. His ERA is 2.91. Yeah, that would rank 11th if he did qualify, but he must be a few innings short because he doesn't. But he's going to pitch. That's the big kind of takeaway here. Duvall may pitch as well. We'll see. I mean, they only have so many innings that they can give to guys, but Cobb believes that he's going to pitch in this game, and that's why he was named as a replacement for other players. So, or at least he's going to be available, but he said he thinks he's going to pitch. And so, yeah, the fact that the Giants get a second representative, I think is great just in general. Mostly I'm just happy for Cobb. He said it just means a lot to him, and it means even more that he's kind of waited this long, and he's 35 years old. Giants have a club option on Alex Cobb for next year at a very reasonable price, and so he will be 36 next year. But at the same time, like the numbers he's putting up, if the season ended right now, he would be an easy decision to pick up the $10 million club option for next year that comes with a buyout of $2 million. So it's really only an $8 million decision, and that's a no-brainer for Alex Cobb. And so Logan Webb and Cobb, both deserving of going. Camilo Duvall deserving of going. You've got Wade, J.D. Davis, and Tyro Estrada who could have gone. And so just a good first half for the Giants. Not a like over the moon great first half like in 2021, but the Giants are in a pretty good position, and it is largely thanks to Webb, Cobb, Duvall, like some of the pitchers just having excellent seasons, but also some of the position players. And I think I said I was going to give some injury updates. There aren't actually that many. I don't know what I was talking about. But Kyle Harrison. Let's just briefly mention that. Kyle Harrison, Giants' top pitching prospect in AAA, suffered a moderate hamstring strain on last Wednesday while training in between starts, and he will not pitch in the Futures game, which already happened. He will be reassessed during the All-Star break. And Farhan Zaidi met with reporters. That's something we'll cover later, but he said he expects Kyle Harrison to pitch in the majors this season, but this sets him back. I don't know, they might have been closer to giving him that opportunity, but now it's going to have to wait while he deals with this moderate hamstring strain. So anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow, mailbag episode. So lots of great questions. Be sure to check out tomorrow's episode. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out a lot, so thanks in advance. And thank you to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Enjoy the Home Run Derby tonight. And you are now Locked On Giants.